Hello, my name is Nick Carpenter and I'm the principal clarinet with the BBC Concert Orchestra. Today I'm here at Dorks Music making a video comparing the new D'Addario VENN synthetic reed with my traditional D'Addario Classic Reserve cane reed. Before I give you my thoughts about these two reeds, I thought I'd play you some examples so you can hear for yourself and see if you can spot any differences. The first thing I'd like to play is bold, dramatic, big sound, the opening to Rhapsody in Blue, and I will do it on both reeds. So there we are, two excerpts, the opening of Rhapsody in Blue, one played on the VENN, one played on the traditional cane reed. As it happens, well, I'm curious whether you heard a difference. As it happens, the first one was the VENN reed, the second excerpt was on the Classic Reserve cane reed. As a player, and certainly in this music, I feel very, very little difference between the two reeds. Dynamic range is equally big on both, and I think the VENN matches the cane reed in terms of the tonal depth and warmth, even playing at a loud dynamic. Doing a glissandi is equally difficult or easy depending on how you find it on the VENN reed as on the cane reed, and certainly in this excerpt there's basically very little difference between the two. I'll now play something a bit more reflective. Again, I'll repeat it once where you'll hear, and you have to see if you can hear the differences. This time I'm going to play the opening of the first movement of the Brahms E-flat Sonata. So there were two performances of the opening of the Brahms E-flat Sonata. Again, I wondered whether you could hear a difference between the two. As it happens, again, I did the first excerpt on the VENN reed and the second on the traditional cane reed. I think that tonally the two are very similar. Maybe there are slight nuances, but generally they at a much lower dynamic level, there's still the warmth and the depth of tone that from the VENN reed that I would expect from a cane reed. If there was one difference, and again this is not bad or good, it's just different, is that the VENN has a much more immediate response to it, and that takes some getting used to. It's just different. Even after a couple of weeks, when I go from the cane to the VENN, it takes me a couple of minutes just to get used to that. But overall, I would say the similarities these reeds, the VENN, the synthetic VENN reed, and the traditional cane reed, are very striking. I use the D'Addario Classic Reserve, and the VENN synthetic reed is very closely modelled on that. So it's been quite an easy transition for me. For those of you who use maybe just the Classic or the Evolution, it might take a little bit more adjustment, but do persevere. And strength for strength, I use 3.5 plus, and the VENN synthetic reed was an exact match, is also a 3.5 plus. So I think we've got to a point where this latest synthetic reed is as a professional player, I think it's really, really interesting, and I will certainly keep one in my case. If only for those times when maybe I'm on tour, we've gone to, I can't think where, but where humidity and temperature are off the scale. Traditional cane reeds are really affected by humidity and temperature, whereas the VENN is going to be much more stable. I will know that I've got in my case, always I will have one reed that works. But I think whatever standard or level that you are playing at, the VENN has a practical application. As a beginner or an elementary student, to have a really good reed, and these are good reeds, it's quite robust, which I think is really important in these early stages. One VENN reed will probably last, if you're quite careful with it, will probably last the whole term, maybe even longer. So think of the savings there. Yes, maybe the initial outlay is more, but then that'll last you such a long time. So I think not only in terms of playing, but in economics as well, it's very viable. As a more advanced student, maybe someone who's at the music conservatoire, I think to have, again, a very good reed that responds so similarly to cane would be fantastic for the student. Again, the economics of it really, really add up, as well as the fact that you have a reed that responds just like a cane and sounds so similar to cane. So that's very important. And then finally, as a professional player, I think we've got to the point now, these VENN reeds are so good that they can live or complement the cane reeds. It's not one or the other, but they can live alongside each other. I will keep one in my case, and perhaps I will regularly use it to practice on. As a professional player, we get through so many cane reeds because we're using them all the time. Well, how lovely to, once I've got 3 or 4 really good cane reeds, to know that if I practice on the VENN, or do a significant amount of my practice on the VENN, that I can use the cane, and maybe even use them in rehearsals, but I can keep my cane ones, and they'll last longer for performances, because I'm not using them day in, day out for practice as well. So I think this is a really big step forward for single reed players, and I can't recommend enough that you go and try one. Simple as that. I think they're very exciting, and as I say, I'm certainly going to keep one in my case, and look forward to using it. I hope that's been helpful, and thank you.